Hey everyone, I'm back at home after an amazing road trip down to San Francisco and the Bay Area to check out the future of food. It's amazing how, in a few short weeks, your mind and your concept of how the world works can completely change. Why do I say that? Because before I left, I was like, okay, this could be a thing. Maybe I'm wrong. I have no idea what I'm talking about. And while I still don't really have any idea what I'm talking about, I have a lot more conviction now in the industry. I went and checked out a bunch of cool companies, spoke to a bunch of people, tried a bunch of prototypes, and I can confidently say that the technology is here and it's a really exciting industry. And I just can't believe that we're so far already. And it's really going to be very, very soon that you can start trying a lot more of this food. Some of the foods already you can buy online, you can buy in stores. If you've seen some of my other videos, I've done taste tests, and those are products that you can buy today. I will be looking at companies in some of the portfolio analysis that I do who still don't have products on the market. And so I have done a few taste tests that I'll show about those. But really, the majority of what I'm showing you on this channel is something that if you maybe you can't get it everywhere, but you can travel somewhere on the earth to actually find these products today. With that, this video is all about a really cool company, Upside Foods, who just received FDA approval for their cultivated chicken in the United States. Now, that doesn't mean they can go ahead and sell it because they don't have all the approvals needed, but this is really the first step in the process, and it's great news for the industry because we've been waiting for these approvals and this regulation to start happening in the US. Currently, Singapore is the only country in the world where you can legally buy or sell cultivated meat, and we're expecting that the US is going to be the next one. So, really cool to see this new announcement. Let's get into that. Here we have a tweet from Uma Valetti, who is the CEO and founder of Upside Foods. I've been looking forward to this day for a long time. Upside Foods has received our no questions letter from the FDA. So this means that they've accepted our conclusion that our cultivated meat or cultivated chicken is safe to eat, meaning that Upside Foods is one step closer to being on tables everywhere. So this is now the first company in the US to receive the green light from the FDA. We still have another approval to take place. We look at a news article here. So, cultivated meat is regulated by both the FDA and the USDA in the United States. The only other company that has regulatory approval for cultured meat is Eat Just, and they're only selling in Singapore. This is a watershed moment for the history of food, the CEO said, where we started Upside amid a world full of skeptics, including myself, to be honest, and today we've made history again. This milestone marks a major step towards a new era in meat production. So, Upside Foods was founded in 2016 as Memphis Meats, and they are really the first or one of the first cultivated meat companies in the space. They're also closest to being able to produce meat at scale. So just over a year ago, and we're going to see the video in a second, but they opened up a 53,000 square foot facility in the Bay Area that will be able to make 400,000 pounds of meat a year. So enough to serve some restaurant customers. So likely what's going to happen as a lot of these companies get into the market is that because it's still quite expensive to make the product, a lot of them will probably be selling into higher restaurants first, and they'll be partnering with chefs and, the fancy Michelin star restaurants so that the cost, so that they can recoup their costs and actually start to make a profit. Um, so that's probably likely the business model that a lot of these companies are going to take when they start. Similar to how Tesla started selling the Roadster before they launched more cheaper versions with the Model S and then the Model 3. So we could see a very similar type of rollout with this new food technology. We can see a similar thing to how good meat which is Eat Just in Singapore, how they've rolled out their chicken. They started with a partnership. There was a restaurant, and I can't remember now if it's the same one, but now they're working with the Marriott, and then now they've actually allowed some food delivery to take place. So a lot of companies will probably go that route, and there are some companies who might actually say, you know what, we want to get, we want to start more with the education, and so we're going to roll this out to maybe, I don't know, fast food restaurants or something that's more accessible to the average consumer. And so they'll probably actually end up selling a lot of their products at a loss. So you'll have probably those two ways of entering the market. So important to kind of keep in mind if you're an investor in the space. Again, a lot of these returns from these companies are going to take quite a long time to become profitable, either because, yeah, it just really is going to depend on how they're entering the market and how fast they can get their costs down and how fast they can improve their technology. But we're still looking at a long road ahead of us. So back to the regulation. Through this approval, the FDA is showing its commitment to supporting innovation in the food supply. The statement stressed that the FDA's first priority is safety. Food made with cultured animal cells, the agency wrote, must meet the same stringent requirements as other food regulated by the FDA. We have no questions at this time about Upside's conclusion that foods comprised of or containing cultured chicken cell material resulting from the production process are as safe as comparable foods produced by other methods. The no question letter states. So if you want to read the full letter, you can go here. And you can read the full details of that. There's a lot of pretty interesting details about the actual production process of these cells. If you're interested, interesting letter for the nerds out there. How does the FDA and how does the USDA regulate this in the United States? And when could we possibly see a full approval? With the different, or with the shared regulations here, we can see that the FDA, so they've just released their approval here. They oversee the cell collection, cell banks, and cell growth and differentiation. This is the production of the cells. It's not the actual creation of the meat itself. So it's like producing the muscle and the fat. Just think of it as raising a cow or raising a chicken in this case. This is what the FDA is overseeing. So a transition from FDA to FSIS. So this is the Food Safety and Inspection Service. They're part of the USDA. So a transition to that oversight will occur during the cell harvest stage. So essentially once that happens, then you're more or less ready to form your meat and package it and then turn it into a product. And so the USDA will oversee the production and labeling of human food products derived from the cells of livestock and poultry. So the FDA looks at the cell production and the growth, and the USDA looks at the cell harvest. So this is the actual turning of those cells into meat. So that's the meat production. So you can kind of look at it as the growth of the animal cells with the FDA, and then the production and creation of the product under the USDA regulation. So we have now getting a green light as in terms of growing of the cells and producing those cells. Now we're just waiting on the actual production of the chicken as a product to be sold. Super exciting news. Can't wait to see the full approval of this. We're probably looking at maybe sometime next year that we see approval of this, and then again, once one company gets it, we're going to start seeing other companies as well. let's look a bit more into what the actual production process and facilities look like.
The future of meat has arrived, and our doors are open. At Upside Foods, we're growing real meat directly from animal cells without raising animals. Our production facility and innovation center is in a vibrant urban setting surrounded by neighborhoods and eateries, something that's completely new to meat production. At Upside, our kitchen is at the front of the building because taste and deliciousness is at the forefront of everything we do. Here, visitors will be able to enjoy meat they've always loved, made in a new way. And they can experience what it will be like to eat cultivated meat in their kitchen or favorite restaurant, all just a few feet away from where the meat was produced in the cultivation room. This room, which takes up almost half of the facility, is where we cultivate animal cells into meat. Here is where the cells grow and multiply inside different types of cultivators. If you've ever visited a beer brewery, these tanks might look familiar to you. In fact, cultivating meat from cells is similar in many ways to producing beer or yogurt. At full capacity, we expect this facility to be able to produce up to 400,000 pounds of meat per year. It was designed to be able to produce any type of meat, poultry, or seafood you can imagine, and it can produce both ground meat and whole cuts. The cultivation room also has an innovation center that allows us to test new products and production methods. This facility isn't just about producing meat today, it's also about finding the breakthroughs that will enable us to produce the next generation of cultivated meat. The control center is the brain of the cultivation room. In this space, we constantly monitor our meat production to ensure our cells have the perfect environment to grow and multiply. Once the meat is harvested, it needs to be prepared and packaged, and that happens in our formulation area. Here is where we test new product formats and where our meat becomes your favorite products, like chicken tenders or chicken breast. Whether it's a meatball, a fish fillet, or a hamburger, there's only upside. We take deliciousness very seriously, and that's why we've built a sensory panel for people to do blind tests of our products so that we can constantly improve our process. As you've noticed by now, this way of making meat looks nothing like a slaughterhouse. To prove it, we've filled our facility with windows so that visitors can see firsthand how their meat is made. We believe that people shouldn't have to choose between the foods they love and a thriving planet. Together, we will build a food system where everybody has access to delicious, humane, and sustainable meat. We're proud to open our first production facility in the Bay Area where it will serve as an international model for cultivated meat production. In other words, this is just the beginning.
It was really cool seeing all the pipes and stuff because, I don't really know what to imagine, when I hear meat producing, plant.
You, get a cell from, a chicken and you feed it, nutrients until it becomes, a chicken breast. Making meat by killing an animal causes, a lot of pollution.
Instead of using, farm space and land, and it's much easier and cleaner here when it's all stored and made right here in this one place.
So many cool things about this. One, we can now start growing meat in the middle of urban areas where most of the consumers are. That removed huge transportation costs and inefficiencies for getting product to market. Second, I don't know about you, but I've never been to a restaurant or a food facility where I can see my meat being made right in front of my own eyes. This is really a complete change in how we're able to experience meat production. I've also never been to a factory farm facility, and I would suspect that I probably wouldn't want to go to one. I think this is really going to change the relationship that a lot of consumers have with their meat because they're now able to see it being produced right before they eat it. Maybe one day we'll even get into a world where you go to a restaurant like McDonald's or wherever, maybe a nicer restaurant, but you go to a restaurant and you have windows where you can see them make meat. So maybe you go to a sushi restaurant, for example, and it's kind of like sitting at a beer brewery, or now you go enjoy your favorite beer and you can see the tanks in the back making the beer. Now you go to your sushi restaurant and you can see the tanks in the back making some of your sashimi that you'll be eating. That's just a whole new relationship with food. I think it's super cool. I think it's super cool that we'll start to have a bit more of a connection. I think it's super cool that we'll also start to be able to have food made in urban areas. I'm Chris. That was some super cool news to see from Upside Foods. Thanks for watching.